Hello everyone and welcome to Top Tips for Archaeology Graduates. Today I am joined by Matt, who works in Archaeological Consultancy. Hi Matt, how are you today?
Hi Penny, I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. So can I ask you a little bit about your job? What does it mean to be a consultant in the heritage industry?
So I'm an Archaeology and Heritage Consultant, working at sort of a medium-sized environmental consultants. They're based internationally, but most of our work is in the UK. And our work is based across the UK from Scotland. Quite a lot of it is in the south. We work with a lot of public bodies and things, doing things like flood defence schemes and large flood defence schemes is our biggest thing that we do. So yeah, my job involves a lot of report writing. At the moment, I'm obviously home working for the most part, but I still get to go out on site quite a bit, so it's a good balance.
What do you enjoy most about your job?
I really like the variety. That's the best thing about my job, is that I've done so many different sites in the past few months that it's ridiculous. Sometimes I can be looking at a Bronze Age barrow 1 minute, and then a nuclear missile was one of the ones that I did a few months back. So it's the full spectrum of archaeology from prehistory to almost present.
So can I ask a little bit more about that kind of variety that you're doing? Are you looking in terms of preservation of different sites, and does that involve drawing on quite a lot of different sort of period knowledge, or do you think it's more skills based in terms of thinking about how we think about different archaeological materials and buildings?
It's quite a balance between the two, really. I mean, we do things like condition surveys of listed buildings and scheduled monuments, and then also alongside that we do things like setting assessments and the report writing. I mean, contributing to like environment statement chapters and things. It's there's a lot of skills based work and a lot of having to know things about different periods, but I mean, you think you need to know everything about every period, and you really don't. You do your research as you go. So I mean, it doesn't really matter what your background is. You're going to end up exposed to every single period, and we just have to go with the flow and deal with it as it comes.
That's great. I know that you said to me before that you could find yourself working on a Bronze Age barrow one day, but then you also talked about working sort of in nuclear facilities, which I guess is right up to the modern day as well, which is quite
absolutely incredible sites. And I mean, I've wanted to be an archaeologist for quite a long time, but there have been days, especially when I was looking at things like nuclear rocket testing facilities, and I have to pinch myself and I can't believe someone's paying me to do this. It's pretty cool.
That is cool. What do you find more challenging then about your role? Is it alongside getting to visit some of these sites? What are the things that you think, oh, I wish I didn't have to do that, or you find more difficult to engage with?
I think I had a bit of a background in doing some site work, and with that, as when you're a site assistant on site, your responsibility really just sort of ends at the edge of your trench section. You don't really have to think a lot more about the wider thing. And so the thing I found the most challenging is just the level of responsibility that I've been given now. It's when I'm having to deal with historic England, or you're in meetings with civil engineers and things, and quite often I find myself wondering what on earth they're talking about. But you have to be able to answer questions that are fired at you, and sometimes it can be quite nerve-wracking, but equally you learn every single time, and you get better at dealing with things like that.
Yeah, quite a few people have talked a little bit in these interviews about imposter syndrome, and I guess as you move into consultancy, that's something you have to encounter, where you're like, no, I am the expert in the room.
Absolutely.
So can you tell me a little bit about your career journey and how you ended up in the position that you have today?
Yeah, sure. So I came to York as a mature student. I was 27, I think, when I came to York. I, before that, had been a golf greenkeeper for almost 10 years. I did an apprenticeship in golf greenkeeping. And then, as a lot of people do, became disillusioned with their career in their late 20s, and suggested to my friends that I would go off to university to do a degree in archaeology. And they looked at me in horror and said, why do you want to do that? It was not too long after the financial crisis, and a lot of people that they'd know had done archaeology degrees and couldn't get a job. But I stuck to my guns. I thought, that's really what I want to do. And even if I don't get a job in archaeology at the end of it, that's what I want to do. And just by going to uni and making sure that you network and speaking to people, there's a lovely lecturer at uni called Marlin Holst, and she did a lecture suggesting that she could help people get experience in fieldwork. I went down to speak to her after the lecture, had a 5-minute conversation with her, and I was employed with an archaeology company within a month. And I worked every summer whilst I was at uni. I did every holiday period, and then got a job with the same company when I finished uni. A couple of years fieldwork experience, and then somehow managed to get this job as a consultant. So
you moved quite quickly. So you spent a couple of years working in field archaeology after you graduated, and then you moved quite quickly into consultancy. What kind of things attracted you to consultancy, I guess, and what kind of things do you think made you stand out when they gave you the job?
Okay. A lot of people think, I think, when you go to uni, that when you get a job in archaeology, when you leave, it has to be in fieldwork, and it really doesn't. I know personally, fieldwork isn't for everyone, and I had a terribly bad back, and I didn't think I could dig for much longer, and I was getting a bit tired of getting wet and cold every single day. So I thought consultancy maybe seemed like a good idea, but I didn't know how you get into consultancy, and that is the key with consultancy, and the difficulty is getting your foot in the door. But I found that having that experience in fieldwork was a massive help, not just in getting the experience of the fieldwork and being able to prove in the interview for the consultancy job that I had enough experience to be able to ask questions and deal with clients about fieldwork questions, but also in networking, because I knew people that worked in the company that were in the consultancy that had worked on sites where I'd been a digger. So they knew me already, and that you can't say enough how much it helps to just have a network of people that you know, and if you're on site, you're friendly, you're showing a bit of extra effort, you're going the extra mile for people. It doesn't even have to be big things. It doesn't have to be staying hours after that you're supposed to be working. If yours are the sections that are always straight and your drawings are standing out as the best on site, you're gonna stand out amongst other people. I'd say that is the biggest keys to do it. It's all the little things. Sweat the small stuff, and the big stuff looks after itself.
That's really nice advice. I also think that networking is really important. And it's not just about going out and saying hello to people. It's about being a warm and friendly person who's ready to get involved and ask questions and be interested. And I think you're a really great example of that working. So in what ways do you think your archaeology degree at York helped you, both in terms of, I guess, knowledge and skill, but also those transferable skills that you use in your job as well?
Yeah, I think the difference in the degree at York is that is the amount of seminars and lectures and things that you end up having to do, presentations and things. When I first signed up to the degree and it said that, you'll have to give a lecture at the end of your degree about your dissertation, it almost put me off clicking the button to apply. I was terrified of the thought of doing that. But and it's not just me, it was everyone. I could see from the first week that you turn up at uni and you have to give your first presentation, it's not long after you start. It's really terrifying. But after the 3 years of being able to do that, by the end of it, everyone's so confident in seminars that you could talk for 2 hours about your dissertation, not 15 minutes. And so I think that was the best thing about going to York, was that you build confidence through practice of presentations and talking to people.
Yeah, I think that stands out a lot. And I always think York students, when you get to the assessed seminar and assessed lectures at the end of the 3 years, I love them. It's like going to a professional conference and hearing everyone's interesting ideas. They're always it's a great day to be engaged with.
It definitely doesn't feel like an exam at the end of it, which is what it really is, but it doesn't feel like it. No.
Yeah, that's great. So can I ask you, what advice would you give to people who wanted to follow in your footsteps? I guess I'd be curious to hear both people who wanted to change careers, who would say, listening to this, perhaps before they apply to do archaeology, have said, I'm in this field, but I've always wanted to be an archaeologist. But perhaps also graduates as they're coming up to their end of their degree and thinking, maybe I want to work in consultancy.
So I would say that if you're thinking about changing career and you want to be an archaeologist, do it. People might say that it's a terrible idea and you won't get a job, and I'm sure there are people who don't end up working in archaeology. There are only so many jobs, but there's a lot at the moment. There's loads of jobs going at the moment, and I think if it's really what you want to do, you'll succeed at it, because if you're passionate and you turn up on site and you have a positive attitude, or if you turn up at a consultancy and you have a positive attitude and you're trying to do your best for people, you can't help but succeed, really. And so, and also if you want to get into consultancy, I'd say you need to keep an eye out for graduate roles. I'm enrolled on a graduate scheme currently in my company, and it's not just that it helps you get your foot in the door, because they're not expecting you to have any experience when you turn up as a graduate. Any experience that you have helps you stand out. But also you're part of like a 2-year scheme with you have the pay rises are set over the entire 2-year scheme, and the money in consultancy is slightly better than it is on site. So I mean, it's not all about money. No one becomes an archaeologist to be rich, but that is one positive thing about it. But yeah, these graduate schemes, they're great. They help you if you have no work experience. If you're not a mature student, you gain all that through doing these graduate schemes, and loads of companies offer them. They're really good.
That's really interesting to hear. So you feel a little bit like you're still training on the job, do you? You get to go and try out different aspects of consultancy rather than just going to one particular area.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not doing a rotation. I'm just doing archaeology and heritage, but we have graduates in our team. One of the graduates in our team is currently on a rotation scheme, and she'll rotate through doing different types of environmental consultancy. I mean, I can't say how good that these graduate schemes are. They really do help you do loads of things through the company, training schemes, all sorts. Yeah.
That's really, really great to hear. We know that sometimes graduate schemes seem like they're a little bit distant from the archaeological world, something that's perhaps applied more to business context, but actually here we could see really graduate schemes fitting it nicely into the heritage industry, which is nice to see. Thank you so much for joining us today, Matt, and giving us your insight into archaeological consultancy and to changing career. It's really nice to see, and we wish you all the best with your training and continuing in your career as a heritage consultant. Thank you to you for watching, and join us next time for more top tips for archaeology graduates.